Film isn't just a visual medium, it's a verbal one too, and nowhere is the brilliance of a good script easier to hear than in the mouths of the characters. Bickering and bantering, yelling and yapping, probing and pontificating, these are our picks for the best dialogue of all time. Kicking us off at number 10, we're looking at dialogue that was brilliant in its specificity, in how it evoked a certain place or time or sense of character by choosing words, pacing, structure, cadence that was specifically evocative. This is dialogue from The Departed, On the Waterfront,
A one-way ticket to Palookaville,
and Snatch,
Hey, what is my kindness for the horse, you know?
My Cousin Vinny,
2 Utes,
Juno,
Honest to blog?
True Grit, and The Big Lebowski.
I'm the dude, man.
However, for our number 10 pick, we think it's pretty damn hard to beat Hunger.
How's your smoke going?
Grand?
Filthy habit. Disgusting.
Oh, aye, awful. Lovely though.
Aye, praise the Lord.
We're not actually Irish, so this could be about as accurate as Lucky Charms commercial, but god damn it if it doesn't sound bang on to us. And what's more important even than its accuracy is how it uses it. How it dresses a most urgent of conflicts in the most eloquent and specific of clothing. There's a certain musicality to the sound of it, a rhythmic patter to what amounts to a negotiation for a group of men's lives. It transports you to a place and a time where terrible decisions had to be made and illustrates it with the most beautiful of language. Next, we're considering wordplay, verbal trickery, linguistic aerobics. The famous who's on first routine is the classic benchmark here.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yeah.
I mean, the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
But we also have to show some love to the Grand Budapest Hotel,
A second copy of The Second Will.
Lucky Number 11,
I never thought you were him. I thought he was you.
and our number 9 pick, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
A man talking sense to himself is no madder than a man talking nonsense not to himself.
Or just as mad.
Or just as mad.
And he does both.
So there you are.
Stark raving sane.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead is Tom Stoppard's absurdist spin-off of Shakespeare's Hamlet, following two of its most interesting minor characters as they grapple with various existential dilemmas, attempting to riddle their way through an inherently nonsensical world in one extended conversation the whole film long. So the turn of a phrase is tantamount to the entirety of the drama. It is even physicalized in a verbal tennis match as they match wits instead of swings. The wordplay is the plot. They seemingly live and die by their language, and it puts an urgency behind their conversation that is both desperately hilarious and completely gripping. Of course, sometimes it's not the words so much as how they relate to the meaning underneath. We're talking subtext, dialogue that takes the scenic route, that zigs when the intention zags, that works to conceal or contain or contrast the underlying truth. It's done wonderfully all over Double Indemnity,
I wonder if you wonder.
The Third Man,
You ought to leave this thing alone.
and famously in The Godfather.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
But come on, people, we'd have to be kidding ourselves to not go Tarantino's way. And while he's written Cirque du Soleil level verbal contortion all the way from Reservoir Dogs
Bet you're a big Lee Marvin fan, aren't you?
to Hateful Eight,
Did I know him? Yep. Yeah, I knew him.
there's nothing that's had quite the subtextual impact as Pulp Fiction.
Looks like me and Vincent caught you boys at breakfast. Sorry about that. Did you have it?
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers! The cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast. What kind of hamburgers?
Cheeseburgers.
No. Where'd you get them?
Tarantino is the master of subtext, and it's our favorite kind. He's not just writing subtext in that awful literary way where both people are talking in a mutual, thinly veiled metaphor that's basically just a code. No, in Pulp Fiction they talk about hamburgers, they talk about coffee, they talk about tomatoes and potbellies and oral sex and the Bible. They talk about anything and everything that has nothing to do with what's really going on. Because what they're really doing is threatening and apologizing and flirting and falling in love and sparring and opening up, and the results speak for themselves. Next up, we're looking at the all-time best verbal conflict. Dialogue that attacks and digs and dodges and parries and goes straight for the heart. Words as warfare, conversation as combat. Think The Master.
Who likes you except for me?
Or The Lion in Winter.
You can expire.
You first, old man.
Or Doubt.
You have taken vows!
Or Glengarry Glen Ross.
What is this, courtesy class?
You bet your ass it's all over the social network, but for our number 7 pick, our favorite of Sorkin's psychological sadism belongs to Steve Jobs.
We're there. No, it's got a 1 in 6 chance of working.
God damn it!
Well, we're not a pit crew at Daytona. This can't be fixed in seconds.
You didn't have seconds. You had 3 weeks. The universe was created in a third of that time.
Well, someday you'll have to tell us how you did it.
Love it or hate it, Sorkin's writing is something to marvel at. And nowhere is it more talky, more play-like, more reliant on what characters say than here. The conflict bubbles so turbulently just below the surface, always swirling around and constantly being dredged up by Jobs himself, who flies about like a conversational juggernaut, arguing and threatening and bludgeoning the people around him into the shape of the world as he envisions it. Sorkin's dialogue stages a war on many fronts, while always connecting it to Jobs' central thrust, for a result that is a frenzied whirl of a character desperately clawing about in a fight for his own self-worth. On the other hand, the flip side of this kind of linguistic aggression takes us to the calmer world of dialogue as storytelling, where the pleasure lies not in the conflict, but in the honesty and vulnerability of humans sharing their personal narratives. It's The Big Chill.
Wise up, folks. We're all alone out there.
And Magnolia.
The past is not through with us.
End of Tour.
I'm sure that I still have those same parts of me.
And Coffee and Cigarettes.
I know a guy. Reese's Coffee.
But for our number 6, there can be none other than My Dinner with Andre.
See, I've seen a lot of death in the last few years, Wally, and there's one thing that's for sure about death. You do it alone, you see. That seems quite certain, you see. That I've seen. That the people around your bed mean nothing. Your reviews mean nothing. Whatever it is, you do it alone. And so the question is, when I get on my deathbed, what kind of a person am I going to be? And I'm just very dubious about the kind of person who would have lived his life those last few years the way I did.
My Dinner with Andre is quite literally just a conversation. There is no plot, no external conflict, no ticking clock. Just two men with various disagreements, as men have, talking them through. There is no character arc or grand reconciliation or great big epiphany. The film is just talk. And yet, it's utterly fascinating. Written by the two actors, distilled from months' worth of their actual conversation, it is nothing more than two men gradually and articulately revealing their inner selves. At number 5, we want to reserve a spot for dialogue that manages to feel as true to life as possible. And sure, it'll never be realistic because have you listened to real people talk? It's awful. But with careful balance and compromise and imperfection, a talented scribe can achieve a subtle naturalism worthy of this list. Primer is an excellent example of this.
30 hours of free time schedule. We're all working the same schedule, I know.
As is End of Watch.
Oh, shit, dude.
The entire Before trilogy.
No way.
Most Mumblecore.
Yeah, you just went.
And even Superbad in parts. And Kenneth Lonergan is hot as hell right now with Manchester by the Sea, but we want to turn new Lonerganians onto an older, lesser-known gem of his that's flush with this kind of dialogue. You Can Count on Me.
So how are you?
I'm fine, Terry.
So, how's Rudy?
We're fine, Terry. How are you?
Yeah.
The magic of You Can Count on Me is that so much happens in the dialogue without resorting to the extraordinary, the unbelievable, or the melodramatic. It is subtext, but a tamer sort. Deep familial conflicts of love and responsibility and respect and dependability lie underneath the everyday topics of plumbers and car rides and the quotidian how are you. On the far opposite end of the naturalism spectrum, we end up with the hyper-stylized, uber-suave quick wit of banter, where everyone always seems to know the exact right thing to say. David Mamet's is sharp as Attack and Heist and House of Games.
Let's talk turkey, pal.
Woody Allen's is quick and frenetic in Annie Hall and Manhattan.
People should mate for life like pigeons or Catholics.
And Scott Frank's take on Elmore Leonard is never better than in Get Shorty.
I'll say any more than I have to, if that.
But for our fourth to last slot, we're going with Shane Black, who is iconic in Lethal Weapon.
That's a real badge. I'm a real cop, and this is a real fucking gun.
Hilarious in The Nice Guys.
Oh, excuse me, I'm carrying a dead body and I have a schwanz in my face, so I'm sorry I'm not Kishnarov.
You can't even say Baryshnikov.
But never better than in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
I want you to picture a bullet inside your head. Can you do that for me?
Fuck you. Anyway, that's ambiguous.
Ambiguous? No, I don't think so.
No, I think he means that when you say picture it inside your head, okay, is that a bullet will be inside your head or picture it in your head? Like form an image. He's got a point.
Where Sorkin's characters always seem in danger of destroying each other with their words, Shane Black's are just slapboxing. And Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is him at his quippiest, throwing the most hilarious of shade in the cleverest of ways. It's verbal slapstick, characters tripping over their own words in an attempt to prove themselves smarter than each other. A Of course, that last slot was all Hollywood, and while you may have noticed by now that we've limited this list to English language films only because we didn't feel properly qualified to evaluate dialogue in languages we couldn't speak, English isn't only the purview of America. The UK has their own special kind of banter too. You can find it in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
That boy doesn't know his arsehole from his earhole.
Trainspotting.
They're just wankers!
With Nail and I.
They must be delighted with your career.
And Hot Fuzz.
Fuck off up the model village.
But to our ears, there's one modern master who stands above them all, Martin McDonagh. And while Seven Psychopaths is a fantastic second effort, our hearts still belong to In Bruges.
Harry, let's face it. And I'm not being funny. I mean, no disrespect. But you're a cunt. You're a cunt now. You've always been a cunt. And the only thing that's going to change is you're going to become an even bigger cunt. Maybe have some more cunt kids.
Leave my kids fucking out of it. What have they done? You fucking retract that bit about my cunt fucking kids.
I retract that bit about your cunt fucking kids.
Insulting my fucking kids? That's going overboard, mate.
I retracted it, didn't I?
While Martin McDonagh only has 2 feature films to his name, he's an accomplished playwright of the funniest, darkest theater you'll ever read. We personally recommend The Pillowman if you ever get a chance, for the most hilarious take on child murder you'll ever hate yourself for laughing at. And some of that sneaks over into In Bruges too, because McDonagh goes dark. He takes his comedy to the blackest of places. Everyone in Bruges should be despicable for what they've done, and will undoubtedly continue to do, and yet you love them for their cleverness, their humanness, and their sense of the absurd. But banter isn't a modern invention, and we want to take these last 2 slots to pay homage to its origins. And in America, that means your noirs.
What is your nationality? I'm a drunkard.
And your screwball comedies.
Yeah, you better give me a receipt.
I'll give you a scar.
Your Houston.
I mean, you paid us more than if you'd been telling us the truth and enough more to make it all right.
Your Wilder.
I'll say.
Your Sturgis.
You find him, I'll push him.
Your Lubitsch.
Must you flirt? Oh, I don't have to, but I find it natural.
Your Hawks.
How do you like your brandy, sir? In a glass.
However, we're going to take it back one step further to some of the original kings of banter, the Marx Brothers, and their brilliant back and forths of horse feathers.
Who are you? I'm fine, thanks. Who are you? I'm fine, too.
Like animal crackers.
You know Conductor Hennessy, don't you? Inspector. Inspector yourself.
And our number 2 pick, Duck Soup.
Not that I care, but where is your husband?
Why, he's dead.
I'll bet he's just using that as an excuse.
I was with him till the very end.
No wonder he passed away.
I held him in my arms and kissed him.
Oh, I see. Then it was murder. Will you marry me? Did he leave you any money? Answer the second question first.
While the screenplay was written by a handful of scribes over a handful of years, the mouthful of dialogue is distinctively Brothers Marxist. In an act refined over decades, from vaudeville to Broadway to the screen, the Chico, Harpo, Groucho, Zeppo combination was honed into one of the best comedy formulas of all time. The type of banter they sling rapid fire and nonstop is specific to the wild smorgasbord of characters the brothers had created. And Duck Soup is probably the best incarnation of their particular brand of madness, and by God, does it sing. And finally, for our number 1, we're tracing British banter's origins to another place. And it's not to Monty Python.
I'm your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
Or James Bond.
It's a Smith & Wesson. And you've had your 6.
Or Kind Hearts and Coronets.
Said he wanted to improve his mind.
He has room to do so.
No, it comes from before all that. Way before all that. Our top scribe of our top slot goes to a young man by the name of Bill, who wrote some of the prettiest dialogue you ever did see. He did it in Romeo and Juliet.
Why then is my pump well floured?
He did it in Julius Caesar.
He's a tried and valiant soldier.
So is my horse, Octavius.
And he did it in our top pick, Hamlet.
Guildenstern, Rosencrantz, good lads, how do you both?
As the indifferent children of the earth.
Happy in that we are not over happy. On fortune's cap, we are not the very button.
Nor the soles of her shoes.
Neither, my lord.
Why then you live about her waist or in the middle of her favour?
Faith, a private way.
In the secret parts of fortune, most true, she is a strumpet. What news?
Are we cheating because this dialogue was originally written for the stage? Sure. Maybe. But to separate the origins of cinema dialogue from theater is disingenuous and likely impossible. And the Bard is simply the GOAT, and Hamlet is even better. And if you haven't given him a shot since high school, do yourself a favor and try. Try him on film. His dialogue is so much more fun in the hands and mouth of a smart actor than it is on the page. They can reveal the humor, the wit, the musicality, the subtext, the emotion, the conflict, the humanity beneath it all. And it hardly gets better than Kenneth Branagh's turn. There's nothing on this list that Shakespeare didn't do better and first, which is why we think this is the best dialogue of all time. So what do you think? Disagree with some of our picks? Do we leave out any of your favorite dialogue? Think my voice sounds sexy and want to take me out for a night of passion and romance? Is anyone still actually listening? God, I hope not. Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more Cinefix movie lists.